Hello and welcome to Fine is a Four-Letter Word. My guest today is Leland Holgate Sr. I'm so honored to have Leland on the show today. In fact, I've actually been waking up with Leland for like the past week. Now, hold on, before everybody goes there, get your minds out of the freaking gutter. That's not what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's...
But you'll hear more about why I've been waking up with Leland.
Yeah,
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Yeah, that could have went both ways. So it's define the lines.
Right. I always start out by asking my guests what the values and beliefs that they were raised with what were the values and beliefs you were raised with that contributed to you becoming who you became as a young adult, especially?
Yeah. Wow, that's an epic question, especially when you go back and look at my childhood. But there are some really great values that I pulled out from both of my parents. And one of the biggest ones was family, which was like that sense of community. So it was always community, and there was a sense of loyalty that was always ingrained with that. So it's, not loyalty to the sense of blind loyalty, but loyalty to the sense of taking care of those that are around you, no matter whether you know them well or not.
Okay. And then how did that play out as you grew up and joined, because you joined Air Force?
Yeah. So it's pretty much shown through everything in my life. Even when I look at when I was in the military, it's even though, we're combat troops, we were there to serve. So that was always, we were either serving the American public or we were protecting somebody else from a dictator or tyrannical leader. So it showed up in my life constantly, and even post-military, especially now with what I do, just in constant service, which I love. It's absolutely amazing.
Cool. We're going to get more into that. But I'm curious. So Air Force, because your dad was Army?
Yeah.
How did you choose Air Force?
It was pretty much made for me. He told me since he was Special Forces, he was like, you join the Army or the Marines and I'll fucking kick your ass. So I was like, okay, well, that takes those two off the table. So I guess I got Air Force or Navy or Coast Guard. So there's three. But so that was, I chose Air Force. And funny enough, to his chagrin, I made it through some of the special testing, and they sent me to SEER training and POW training. And then, of course, I was itching to get into the pararescue training. So he thought I was a moron after I joined the Air Force. He's like, dude, you dodged a bullet, and then you jump in front of the gun.
And you were kind of like, but that's what I've been watching you do, right?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Right. Like parents are always, or not even just parents, bosses, leaders, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, exactly. When we know it's the other way.
Never really works out. Right. Exactly. Yeah. So, all right. So you're just about to go into your it's
pararescue.
Training.
Yeah. So that's the
pararescue.
Yeah. Special Forces side of the Air Force.
Right. Okay. And then what happened?
So,
because you didn't get there.
No, I didn't get there. Obviously, I was.
This is the part where things were fine, but not fine. Almost.
Yeah, exactly. It was, I was a shoo-in because I had already been through my half of the combat training, the SEER, which is survival, evasion, resistance, and escape. POW, which is prisoner of war training. I've been through some weapons training and all kinds of amazing stuff. So that would have been like the icing on the cake to actually make it in there. And unfortunately, before I could even be considered for the program, I suffered the neck injury that left me a quadriplegic when we came back from Yugoslavia. So, yeah, they don't want you after that.
Yeah. Right. Because wheelchairs you can't jump out of airplanes with wheelchairs really attached, right?
Yeah, no, we don't train dumpster fires here.
Okay, well, so I know your story, but the people listening don't know your story. What happened?
Yeah.
in this accident?
So we got back from Yugoslavia. It was Operation Anvil. I'm sure a lot of people remember the Milosevic and Kosovo conflict. So we were over there helping free the people of Albania and now Kosovo. And we came back and we go for R&R, rest and relaxation. And of course, we're adrenaline junkies. We're action junkies. You can't go do what we do and then expect a brisk walk to get your haunches up. So,
right.
So we go out to the lake and we decide to get like the fastest craft that we can. And we hook up an inner tube to it and we're just doing stupid shit all day long, having a blast, jumping off of 100-foot cliffs, like you name it. And then it was my turn. So I goaded my buddy who was driving to kick it up. I told him stop being a pussy. Way to go. Because he kicked it up. And then as soon as he cut left, I just went flying. There was no holding on to that thing. You know, it's like the inner tube just ripped right out from underneath me. And then I went flipping over the water like a folding chair. And people said I just skipped like a stone. Yeah, it was crazy. So inevitably that knocked me out. Like the moment I impacted the water, when you impact water at high speeds, it's like cement. So
right.
All I remembered was lights out. And apparently, thankfully, the life vest kept me floating, but it was one of those cheapy life vests, so it kept me floating face down. It's epic. Because, of course, I'm just bobbing like a tea bag in the lake. And, of course, I drowned and was dead for a little over 3 minutes. And they had to pull me onto the shore, revive me there. And then I wake up in the ambulance with this horse collar around my neck. And I just had like this transcendent experience too, right? You know, one of those near-death experiences where it's peaceful and it's calm and there's no thoughts, no needs, no wants, no anything. And then all of a sudden I wake up to horse collar and there's like extreme pain on the back of my skull. And this dude's asking me if I could feel that. And I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? And he's like, I've been stabbing you with a needle for near a couple of minutes all over your body. You're not feeling any of that. And that's when freak out mode set in. I was like, holy shit, you've been doing what? No, I don't feel anything. So yeah, sheer terror set in, and come to find out I had a contusion on my upper spinal column about the size of a silver dollar right at C1 and C2 that just shut everything down. So yeah, stuck me in the hospital after that one. And as far as the doctors were concerned, you can't heal nerve tissue. Manage your expectations of your life, all the stuff that doctors, physicians are trained to do. I don't blame them. It's what they're trained to do, but still it's maddening to hear that type of shit, especially at 19. You're like, what? Hold on a minute. You're trying to tell me this is it?
Yeah.
Like this is where the boat ends? Like, no, absolutely not. Which took me a couple of days after some self-loathing and woe is me type of shit. But the moment that he tried to manage expectations again on that second day, it was just an emphatic fuck no. And the moment I even expressed that, like my nerve endings right here in my brachial plexus just lit up and my neck gave this little chill, this flicker of energy. And that was kind of my signal, like, hold on a minute. I know what you just said, but apparently you don't know what the fuck you're talking about because there's some shit going on here.
Yeah. Okay. I have two questions. I want to come back to that moment in a second. Yeah. The near-death experience, because I know if I don't ask this question, my friend Tracy's going to be like, why didn't you ask this question? What was that like? Those 3 minutes?
Man, the most peaceful experience I've ever had in my life. It's like being gone for a long time and then coming home and that overwhelming, you just plop down on the couch, throw your fucking bags and lay down on your bed or whatever else. And you're like, I'm home. That's exactly what it felt like. It was just the most peaceful experience I've ever had. And it obviously was over 3 minutes, but felt like an infinity.
Okay. Yeah. Because I've heard a lot about other near-death experiences. Like, did you see other people or spirits or any? It was just a feeling of comfort.
It was I could see, but I could see everybody around my body. I was actually looking over the guy as he's reviving me. So I didn't see anything in the spirit sense, but I was an observer of what was happening, and there was no sound. There was, again, no thoughts in my head. It was just like, that's interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're back in the hospital. You've been there, 2 days? And you were, because I've heard a little bit of this story before. You were asking your buddies to end your life because you figured it was already over anyway.
Yep. There's a big bucket of that
then,
self-loathing.
Sure. But it was such a short period of time. Like the doctor, so 2 or 3 days, and all of a sudden you're like, fuck no, I'm back in it. Like, how did that switch get flipped?
It was the shift in belief because, of course, at that age and knowledge level, I had no idea. So as far as I was concerned, this fucking guy in the white jacket that just walked in knows what the hell he's talking about. I'm screwed. Shit. So as far as I knew at that point in time, and I get chills talking about it, it's amazing now. But there was no belief level for me. Like, holy shit, he just said my life is over. Okay, my life is over. So from that point forward, of course, it was just the end of the train tracks. There's nowhere else to go. I had no other hope to hold on to.
But then when he came back a couple of days later, and you said, "Fuck you, I'm not listening to you," how did that switch get flipped? Like you went from not having any belief to, I have all belief in myself and none in you. So keep moving.
Yeah, it's funny because thankfully enough and oddly enough, I can attach it to my military training because the POW training, that SEER training was always fight for more. Never give up. Don't be a prisoner. So that just kept on ringing in my head. It's just another example of the beautiful brainwashing they put us through in the military and how that sets that program in there. Because I don't know what it was. I have no idea what it was. I had nothing showing me otherwise. Everything, in fact, to the counter that there's no coming back from this. I just had an expert come in and tell me I'm fucked. And then something shifted in me where I thought about it and I was like, hold on a minute. Are you going to sit here and whine and cry and just give up? Like, you're not trained to do, like you have not been doing for the entirety of your life right now. You're going to be a prisoner in your own mind and a prisoner in your own body. Is that what you're telling me right now? And it was kind of like saying no to myself, but extending it to the doctor as well. Like, fuck, no, absolutely not. I hear you. And I respectfully decline.
Right. I do not receive that. You're like taught when somebody gives you a compliment, I receive that. Yeah. I do not receive that.
Absolutely. You can keep that shit yourself.
Right. Because you had said that when you said that to him and you were so emphatic about it, that's when you had that tingling sensation. Yeah. But I was wondering how you got to even that point of saying it. So that makes sense.
Instant shift in belief, and then boop, look what happened.
Yeah. Okay. And then you had some help. Obviously, you didn't just say that to him and then get up and walk out of the bed.
Right. I wish it was that easy.
What? So how long did it take you? And what are the tools that you used?
Overall.
Because wait, as we're talking, because people don't know, and if they're not seeing you, they don't know you, you made a complete recovery. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So overall, when I look back at it, it was roughly about 2 years for full recovery. However, in the first 2.5 weeks, I got most of the feeling back throughout my body. So I, of course, had to work more on the legs. The legs are always last to come back whenever you're dealing with a spinal injury, especially one up in the cervical area because it's furthest away. So, of course, signal degradation, all that stuff. So 2.5 months, and I had pretty much everything back. Just couldn't feel my feet all the way and had some issues with neuropathy or whatnot. But thankfully, I was lucky enough for the military to stick me with a physical therapist that was a yogi. So he was the physical therapist, but he was also the guy that was
let me teach you some shit that I'm sure the military doesn't even know I'm telling my patients about right now.
Right. So that's unusual,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
not all the PT people in the military are teaching their patients yoga.
No, and now there may be some that are using it because of the shift, but back in 99, are you kidding me? It was, here's ibuprofen, go talk to the doctor. I hope you get better.
Yeah. Okay. So clearly some universal forces at work here
Absolutely.
for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I lucked out on that one.
All right. So he taught you yoga as part of your physical therapy.
Yes. And for one, I was like, how the fuck am I going to do yoga, dude? I can't feel anything under my Adam's apple. What kind of stupid shit is that to say to a quadriplegic? And immediately that's when he calm your tits. Let me explain things to you. Holy Lord. Jesus, yoga is not the thing that you see 20-year-old girls doing wearing Lululemon standing on a really cool fucking fancy mat. 95% of yoga is all mental. So he showed me and instilled in me, yoga is a way of mindset and a way of being. And when you look at yoga and you look at life, what is it run by? 95% is all run by breath. Everything we do is controlled by the breath. So that's when he tuned me into the fact that yoga is all about pranayama or breath control. So he started teaching me these really cool ancient breath techniques that are built into, 5,000 to 7,000 year old yoga and qigong and all these ancient techniques that have been around for thousands of years. And every time I did one of those breath techniques, there was something. I get chills every time I talk about it. There was something. It could be just a millimeter or two of feeling coming back, but I could feel it. I could feel something new. I could feel, even when I couldn't really feel, I could feel the pressure in my legs or my butt when there were no nerve endings active, but I could feel the pressure, which means everything was slowly starting to come back. So I was hooked. I dug in like a tick after he showed me that on the first session, besides the fact it was like the highest I'd ever been in my life on just breath. I was like, holy shit, I don't have to hit this button anymore. All right.
How long did you spend? So they give you physical therapy exercises to do.
Yeah.
So how many hours a day were you doing breath work or
all fucking day?
Yoga?
Not unbeknownst to him, I was hooked. I was like all in. Anytime somebody wasn't in there and I had to respond or there wasn't anything I had to pay attention to, I was in my bed doing 1 or 2 breath rounds or, working on the yoga or, stretching where I could, or at least doing the mindset work and getting into some of the meditations after the breath work and all that good stuff. So yeah, I was a crackhead.
Did he plug you into other stuff like books? That was 99, so there weren't like a lot of podcasts,
Sure.
if any, but like what were you listening to? Audiobooks? Were you listening to other kinds of material on personal development?
I was reading a lot because, of course, like you said, 99, we didn't have all these amazing things right there on the phone and ready to go. So I was a big reader, and he gave me all kinds of books, Osho, Patanjali, all kinds of different descriptions of yoga, philosophy, mindset-wise. And I had been reading on philosophy and some other things, but now this was a whole nother side of this is yoga philosophy and philosophy. So it was a different switch for me. And again, I dug in like a tick. He'd give me like 2 or 3 books to read. I'd finish those 2 and go find 3 or 4 more that were exactly like it or similar, and just continued reading, continued to gain that knowledge into that world.
Okay. So that was over 2 years. Then you finally regained full use of all of your arms and I was going to say arms and limbs, but arms and legs.
Extremities.
Extremities. That's the word. Thank you. All right. But there's more to your story.
Yeah. That was.
So what happened? You obviously couldn't go back into the Air Force. What did you choose to do instead?
Yeah, and it's like when I look back, there was one slim chance for me to stick around but it would have been like, here, go hand out boots and weapons and shit. Like, what? It's some bullshit. Like, I was out there doing things. Right. Now I'm going to give them toys. Like, here you go. No, absolutely not. So I went for the retirement, and they 100% retired me. So of course that was kind of nice. But at that point in time, it wasn't fully a mental component for me. It was all physical. Everything I was reading, I was soaking in the information, but I wasn't hearing the information. I was using it in the physical sense because I was so dug in to get my body back to the way that I wanted it to be. So post that, oh God, a whole bunch of the messy middle. Of course, in that time, the VA was still very much about psycho drugs, all the nasty pharmaceuticals that they give out, antidepressants, antipsychotics, benzos, all of that. So instead of actually treating the issue, they were just helping me numb, which turned into seeking for more. And of course, when you can't get more of the pills, you just go to the street drugs. So it's spiraled into this horrible deal with alcoholism and drug addiction. I mean, you name it, I was doing it. Whatever I could do, numb. So that was a good portion of a decade post-military. And right around 2016 is when I had my awakening, and I started getting my shit together. And on top of that, my father had also committed suicide. And that was right around the time of my birthday and his birthday. So it hit me, it hit me in a whole nother way that you can get hit in the gut. And thankfully, it was a catalyst. There was a bit of the woe is me and self-loathing and sadness, of course, that's expected.
Sure.
But it lit a fire under my ass, is what it did. It straight lit a fire right under me. Like, dude, your dad just offed himself, and you've been climbing this mountain for the past, 15 fucking years. Do you think maybe you could share this information with people like him and your other brothers and sisters that were losing over 22 a day to suicide? Maybe you could get out there and do something with it.
You said, so that coincided when you were about getting to that point anyway.
Yeah.
So that was just the final straw to push you to do it.
Yeah, it was like the universal nudge.
Clean up your act.
Yeah, exactly. Like, dude, you've been wasting your fucking gifts. What the hell? So yeah, that was the wake up, because I was already working on cleaning myself up, but that was like, all right, it's time to super speed this and really kick it into turbo, and not only, take the focus off of myself, not in a way of ignoring myself, but put my focus onto serving once again. Get back into service, because when you're serving others, all the shit that's happening in your life, even if it's not what you want to be happening, really just kind of rolls off your back.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's such a great way to help yourself to, like you said, take the focus off of yourself. If you are stuck in a place where you're like, well, I don't know what my purpose is, or my day-to-day isn't how I would envision it. That whole woe is me thing. Can't find gratitude anywhere.
Yeah.
Go volunteer and help somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's instant, it's getting into action solves a lot of that wallowing in mind, overthinking.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's, I've been involved with, some trauma programs and some other programs that help underprivileged folks. And a lot of the parents for some of the kids that were, at risk and really having a rough time, they would take them to the soup kitchens and allow them to serve the homeless. And you'd watch their attitudes change drastically by the end of the day, because now they're not bitching and moaning about their life. They just took care of people that have absolutely nothing, or have whatever they have on the table with them.
Yeah, when we're talking about gratitude, and sometimes people are like, well, I have nothing to be grateful for. I just, everything in my life sucks right now. Yeah. It's like, okay, step back. You can always find something to be grateful for. And I'm willing to bet that if we did this exercise with the people who were being served at the soup kitchen, who were the clients of the soup kitchen, they could find something to be grateful for as well.
Hell yeah.
Like, you can always find what you're looking for. So, yeah. So in that time between, what was that, like 2001 and 2016?
Yeah, it was about 15 years
like
of a dumpster fire. Yeah.
Yeah. Were you still doing the breath work, or once you got all your physicality back, you were like, yeah, don't need that anymore?
I was doing it, but not consistent, right? Yeah, because that mental component hadn't landed yet about consistency and making this a practice, which is what yoga is. So I would do it, but it was anytime I was experiencing pain, or anytime I wanted to get high, or anytime, I was doing it, but it wasn't consistent like I had found in the 2010s.
Yeah. That's like I was introduced to meditation when I was 10 years old. My mom took my brother and me to a meditation course. And so I learned how to do it, but then I didn't use it consistently for the next like 30 something years.
Right.
So, right.
It's pretty typical.
Until there's right. And yeah, I mean, people are all the time like, well, I wish I had been doing this the past 20 years or whatever, but you find it when you're ready.
Exactly right. Yeah.
When the time is right. You've heard that quote, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yeah.
When the time is right, you will find the modality, or you will come back to something you already knew. And that's how it works. So we don't need to beat ourselves up for things that happened in the past that you can't change.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's funny too, because Osho in a lot of the books that I read or read always highlighted the fact that you can think you're practicing yoga until you are in the most desperate position of your life, essentially. Then yoga begins. So yeah, it's that, usually you don't, even if you've already learned it long ago, we don't usually put it into practice or enact that gift until we meet that holy fucking shit type of challenge.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I came back to it around the same time that I was closing my first business, which coincided with my mom passing away. So, right, you're now in this super challenging time, and that's when you come back to it. Yeah. How do you, so you said you wanted to help other veterans. How did you decide that breath work was the way that you were going to help them? Or was it yoga, or was it not? Like, what was it exactly that you started helping?
It started with yoga, because I was at that point at the beginning, right? It was the beginning of my journey as an instructor, as a guide, as a teacher. I was now a 500-hour yoga instructor. I'm a teacher trainer now, so I can actually train yoga instructors. But I wasn't sure how it would be accepted by my brothers and sisters. So I chose yoga to hit on first, because yoga has breath in there. And there's some really great trauma-informed yoga that I teach and can train people in as well. So I was using that, and they were responding really, really well. Little did I know that at that point in time, when you're using meditation, the thing to understand most people don't get is meditation's advanced. That's fucking advanced shit. I don't care what anybody tells you. That is an advanced form of yoga, to be able to sit the fuck still, shut your mind up, and just be in that space. And the entry vector is breath. So once I figured that out, there was that big switch. Like, yoga's still there, and we can use yoga. But I also I thought back to my experience, and the fact that even though I couldn't do the stretching side of yoga, the breath is what got me there more than anything. So that's the big switch that came, is shifting it to the breath, which, funny enough, I should have thought of back in the day when I started, the nonprofit, and we started doing yoga. It's easier to get somebody to sit down and breathe for 30 seconds to a minute than it is to go, okay, sit still for the next 60 minutes and listen to me jabber on and tell you to put yourself in pretzel funny ways and all this other stuff. So, yeah.
So you just brought up the nonprofit, which is willfulwarrior.org. When did you start that?
So that is our The Warriors for Life America was the first side of the nonprofit,
okay.
and then this is now our for-profit side. But that was started on my birthday here last year, June 1st.
Wait, the nonprofit was started a year ago?
No, that was started the year not the year, just a couple years after Dad passed. So I started the nonprofit, and then the Willful Warrior is the for-profit side of that. So they both work and coincide together. But the Willful Warrior is the breath side, while the other one, Warriors for Life, is the yoga trauma-informed service side. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
It's kind of our way to like scholarship veterans into big programs that aren't even ours, or programs that we have, all that good stuff.
Got it. Okay. So how did I have a bunch of questions I'm looking at over here. All right. You have kids, yes?
Yeah, 3.
Do they do breath work?
My son does. My daughter's less than him, but I think it's that thing. it's me.
They're just
course.
like, Dad does it. Whatever. It's that weird thing
whatever.
Dad does.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well, but are they still young? How old's your son?
Yeah. So 28, 27, and 22. So they're all in their 20s, and while they experience
it's
the
not
breath
that
work,
young.
No, yeah, but I guess young compared to me.
All right. How did you develop your method? Because the way you teach breath work is different than the way I've experienced it previously.
Yeah. It's so what I did was hinging off of the ancient breath techniques, all of the hundreds of ways that you can breathe that they've been doing for thousands of years. Something clicked in me, and I was like, how did I do that? I know that I did it, but how did I do that? So about a decade ago, I started digging into psychology and neuroscience, epigenetics, and that mixture gave me the answer to the equation that I wanted. It blew my mind to realize that these cultures thousands of years ago knew that the body was based off a program, which it is. 95% of everything we do is based off of unconscious memory. Yep. And also that the breath rhythm in the body is innate, but it can also be shifted. And the moment that it's shifted, it creates these neuromodulations, or these bursts of frequencies that travel all up and down every nervous system inside of your body. And it was like this big aha moment for me. And I've done all the breath work stuff that's out there that people can think of, Wim Hof and Tumo breath and Soma breathing, and all of the ancient breath work techniques that have inspired some of the breath work facilitators today. And then I realized there were some components that were missing from that I could add in to strengthen that experience. Neurolinguistic programming, once you're in that alpha or theta state, you're super programmable. That's how people get hypnotized on stage, is the guy gets you into a theta state, and then boom, you're clucking like a chicken. So in that same way, there's specific verbiage and in the way that you can record things neurolinguistically and switching that program for yourself. So that was included in there, as well as everything that you have ever done, like Wim Hof or any of these other Tumo breaths or whatever, is all basically cyclic hyperventilation. So once I figured out the core root of what that type of breath was, I could realize, okay, if I do this many breaths for this long, hold it for this long, and then exhale, and then sit in a resting point, there's trackable results that you can watch, and you can see this shift happen inside of the body live time. It's absolutely mind-numbing to watch. And that was the light bulb that I needed to see, was there's a mixture of all of these different modalities that are put in to the Way of the Warrior, which is the method that we created. And it blew my socks off, even, because I had been doing breath work before, but once I had done this myself like a few years ago, I was like, wow, okay, that just supercharged everything.
Yeah. So this is what, so like I said, I hadn't dived into breath work, a lot of it, because it first of all seemed a little bit weird. And the hyperventilation part that you're talking about, I'm like, yeah, I don't like that feeling. It doesn't feel good. So I'm not doing that. And then when you and I were introduced in several months ago, maybe like 8 months ago, and you took a group of us through this practice, I still didn't like it because it felt uncomfortable. It's like you're doing this breathe. Like, yeah, you're basically making yourself hyperventilate. And it doesn't feel, I wasn't getting the super high that some of the other people in the group were getting. Like they were getting really emotional reactions and stuff. And I'm just like, this just feels weird and uncomfortable and I don't like it. For some reason though, I did it again and I did it again. And then now I really like it because of the break part that you put in there, like that sitting. It's not just breathe for like an hour or even 5 or 10 minutes at a time. There are those breaks where you sit and what you're kind of like riding the wave. That's the part I like. So I will go through the breathing part to get to that part. But I think that is, again, I don't have a whole lot of experience with a lot of what other people are doing, but I think that is part of what makes yours different, is that, and you have this, I don't know, it's like this uncanny ability, like you're like, even when you're not in the room, you're like, relax your shoulders. I'm like, oh yeah. Like, oh yeah, you're telling me exactly the right moment. I'm like, yep, that's what I'm doing. I need to relax my shoulders. Okay. Like you're right there with it. Yeah. So you mentioned in the recordings that some of the ones that I've listened to about the chill, and I didn't hear that until I recently, like last week when I was listening. So this is where it comes back to waking up with Leland. He's got this breathwork programs that I've been listening to in the mornings before I get into my day. So that's what I was talking about. But you say something about that chill. And the first couple of times when we were doing it as a group, I don't remember you saying anything about that, but I felt it. And I was like, well, that's weird. Maybe like I didn't realize that was a normal part of it. So what is that about?
Yeah. Oh, that's an epic question. That is actually one of the biggest keys to the practice and the way that I've created it, is that is the feeling of alkalinity, the alkalinization of your entire system. And even though, funny enough, I'm drinking alkaline water, I don't care what marketing stunt they use. You cannot get alkaline by drinking alkaline water. I'm sorry. It helps, of course, with your intake, but it doesn't create alkalinity. Alkalinity is actually created by the level of oxygen and the level of carbon dioxide inside of your body. So when we're moving through that cyclic hyperventilation, we're bottoming out your oxygen. Yeah, we're pulling in air, but your body's not having time to process it because we're pressing it out immediately. So we're more expelling a lot of carbon dioxide, and we're expelling a lot of gaseous waste and a lot of things that our body produces. And of course, our lungs are one of the biggest thoroughfares for executing elimination. So when you're moving through and you're doing the hyperventilation part, your CO2 and your oxygen are bottoming out. Your nitrogen is rising up. In that moment, when you hit the rest point, the reason that chill happens is because your CO2 stays down and then your oxygen starts to elevate. And the moment that happens, you move to what's called basic pH, which is less acidic. It's more on, the higher pH, over 7, basically. So that's that chill you're feeling, is that pH level in your body rising, which is absolutely amazing. You're also feeling it because in that exact moment, that nitrogen raising opens up your arteries and your veins. So it's like, boof, all of a sudden vasodilation happens and your blood's flowing and oxygen is being handed out and there's no CO2, which we need. I don't deimmunize CO2, and I can tell you why, but it helps increase the intake of oxygen, which of course helps us with the increase inside of our hydrogen as well, which is what pH means, power of hydrogen.
Right. So yeah, I mean, I have some background in physiology just because I've studied it myself on it stuff. And I've heard about creating that alkaline state in your body. It's healthier for your cells. So a lot of times when people are in a state of dis-ease, it's important to alkalinize, is that the right term? Alkalinize your body to help those cells heal.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's essentially what you were doing in your physical therapy.
Exactly. And I had no idea then, but now I understood that was a process I was creating. And the cool part is besides the pH side of it, you're also, when you're moving through this, you're creating genetic expression. You're activating very special genes that create healthy proteins.
You're actually rewiring your brain, aren't you?
Yes, you are. You're absolutely shifting neural pathways. So it's a complete vibrational, physical, and chemical shift inside of the body.
Yeah, because I talk about this a lot too, in terms of when you want to make changes in your outer world, the only way you can change anything happening in your outer world is to change your inner world. But we have these deeply, deeply ingrained beliefs. The one that I am on the bandwagon about now is that whole idea that you have to work hard to succeed, which is a total load of bullshit that we've been fed since we were born, especially in Americans.
Yeah.
That the key to success is 24/7 hustle, and you have to, even if you're not working 24/7, like work as hard as you can, play later, take time off later, recharge later, rejuvenate yourself later after the work is done, but the work is never done.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know who created that, but I want to punch them in the face.
Yes. The challenge is, though, that we can talk about it right now and say, that's wrong. We were taught a lie.
Yeah.
But you can't just go and change your belief and go, all right, well, now I believe something different. Because those neural pathways in your brain are wired that way. And so this is just another way, another tool for rewiring your brain. That's the only way you're going to change the beliefs. And once you change the beliefs, you change your actions, and then your actions result in different outcomes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's that simple. We're done.
Yeah, mic drop. Yeah, no, you're so spot on with that, because it's when you look at that, what you just highlighted is called neuroplasticity, the ability to adapt and change and learn, no matter whether it's from trauma or learning something new or experiencing something. And two of the biggest ways that happens is chemically, which we're shifting, and then also structurally, which, to your point, is that habitual buildup and creating of new pathways.
Right. So how often does somebody need to do the breath work to start seeing results?
So I would recommend, I at least recommend at a minimum in the morning. If you can do it in the morning and before you go to bed, awesome. Now you have ended your day the best way. You have started your day the best way. So you end your day on a good program, which of course, as we know, how you go to sleep is how you wake up. So you end on a really good note, and then you wake up on a really good note because you wake up from that program that you created. So at least morning and night.
Okay. So you can do it at night. Actually, I wasn't sure that. I knew about the waking up and then doing it potentially like in the middle of your day when you need to recharge, but you can also do it at night before you go to sleep. Okay. So that would be a great thing to add to your morning routine and your evening routine. And how long do you need to do it for? Because this is the thing I get when I'm talking to people a lot about meditation, is like, well, I don't have time for that.
Right. Yes. Yeah, that is one of the biggest, well, it's a lie we tell ourselves, but you can't force somebody to get past that. Like you highlighted, they have to be the one to change that. So 8 minutes, acute intermittent hypoxia. And what we're seeing in the research studies that have been done now is even something as low as 8 minutes worth of intermittent hypoxia through that cyclic hyperventilation process makes absolutely tremendous changes, activates genetic expression, all kinds of amazing shifts in the body and in the mind happen. So, yeah.
What do you say to people who are like, they're interested now, they're intrigued,
Yeah.
but they're still kind of skeptical? Like,
Yeah.
really? Dude was quadriplegic and now he's perfectly quote unquote normal. I know you. Normal is not the right word, but you know, he's back to fully functioning. Let's say that.
Yeah.
You know, and so you hear these stories of people, but they are still, a lot of them are labeled as like miracles.
Yeah. They call it spontaneous healing in the doctor community. So, for those folks, I usually, like, I can be at a party and I'm talking about this, or I'm at an event and I'm talking about this, and somebody's like, no way, you can't make changes in that little a time. And I sit them down and I put them through something called 60 Seconds of Freedom, which is literally less than a minute worth of an experience. It's one breath round, and in that one breath round, they usually come back and they go, holy shit. So that's like the way that I broach that subject with them. And then, of course, if they want to dive further, I can show them videos from quadriplegics that I work with who are no longer quadriplegics because they're walking with walkers, or paraplegics who are now kicking their legs when they couldn't move anything prior to doing the breath work and meditation. So, yeah.
Very cool. All right. So we're nearing the end. We've gone like way over time. I know like people are like, this interview is going on forever, but it's really fascinating. Before we go, what is your hype song? The song you listen to when you need an extra boost of energy? Like the breath work is it's gotten you 90% of the way there, and now you just need that extra 10% boost.
I love it. Yeah. So, Born for This by The Score. That song goes fucking hard.
It does. Because you shared it with me before our conversation today, and I had not heard it before, and I went and listened to it, and I'm like, oh yeah, this.
Now you see why it's like not just for me. I play that. That's the song before I come out on stage for a live event, or the song I play before I do a broadcast. It's like, so your mind is already ingrained in that warrior mentality.
That's exactly the purpose of a hype song.
Yeah.
Get you hyped up. How can people reach you if they want to continue a conversation?
Yeah, so they can reach out, the Willful Warrior at gmail.com. You can also find the website at thewillfulwarrior.org. And on any of those ways, if they reach out through email or any of the socials, I got all the social platforms, of course. So yeah, anybody that wants to reach out and experience like the way of the warrior, we have mood shifters, which are the short guys that we were talking about, 8 to 11 minutes. We've got a weekend warrior. So there's a whole 3-part series with deeper dives, the shorter ones, all that good stuff. So if people want to know about that, I can definitely hook them up with that info.
Okay, cool. And I will put links in the show notes as well to your info and to that song so everybody can hear it.
Love it.
Thanks so much for joining me today on Fine is a 4-letter word, Leland.
Hey, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.